Let's get the stream up and running. Should be live. Yeah, that looks like we're live. Now I can do post that says we're up. I'll pull out the Twitch chat. Then we can just chill here for a minute before we start looking at this year in Fantasy Critic. Have a look at how our first year in predicting video game review scores as a community went, because I had a lot of fun with this. As did, I hope, the many people that took part this year. And I'm hoping that we can do this again for 2026, starting very soon. Expand it a little bit, because this was a real cool little thing. Hey, Saint Nobody! How you doing? Thank you very much for the 58 months of sub. That is indeed nearly 5 years. Hey, Chuzu Adam. I'm feeling good about how this first year of Fantasy Critic went. I'm excited to talk about it with people. It was very much an experiment. It was very much I impulsively jumped on doing it kind of thing, but it was fun to have as like a little background community event for the year, and I'm hoping more people jump on giving it a go this year. Hey, Echo. Hey, Tara. You know what, I might as well start talking about what this is, because some of you will know what this is. Some of you took part in this year, some of you didn't, but I'll end up refreshing, starting this explanation a couple of times during this stream, I suspect, today, but, yeah, so around this time last year, I got a group of, I believe it was eight groups of, eight teams that came together at the start of this year to take part in something called Fantasy Critic. And Fantasy Critic is basically like sports betting leagues that you do fantasy drafting, fantasy leagues in predominantly like American sports communities. It's a whole thing where people predict like, I think these are the players for the teams that are going to do things that are going to be worth points. And then you're invested in watching all the sports that year because you're like, I got to see if the person that I got in the draft scores a lot of points and gets me points on my Fantasy Critic. And you're all trying to sort of draft and counterpick options so that like, hey, yeah, I got this very cool person, but someone else in the draft got that cool person, so I can't score points off them. Did I pick the best people? Yeah, sports. Like, that's what this is based on. But Fantasy Critic is this, but for, like, video game nerds. The whole point of this is that it is, at the very start of the year, before any of the video games have come out, can you predict what are gonna be the big scoring review games of the year? And that sounds easy at first. You're like, I'll just put down, like, the things we know are supposed to be coming out that are big budget that have already been announced for the year. But when you put 10 people in a draft, what that means is, by the end of this draft, when you're like 9 picks deep, 90 of the most well-known video games of the year have already been drafted, and you're trying to draft what's the weird niche pick that's not in other people's top 90 of the year that I secretly think is gonna be amazing. Saint Nobody says is, the funny thing is I'd put in for them to list Co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking, and they didn't list it because they didn't have a formal announcement and just a tentative title. Then it released under that actual title within the year. Yeah, they're human, you can only work with what they've got, but, yeah, the idea is that you take turns as a group picking games, and if they score above a 70 average review on OpenCritic, you gain points. You lose points if they're below a 70. So, at the very least, you want a 7 out of 10 to not lose points. If you can get above a 90, average, you start getting double points worth. So, like, anything that's in the 9 through 10 out of 10 range is going to get you real good points. And then there's the counter pick, and we'll talk about the counter picks, but at the end of the draft, you have to pick something that someone else thought that's going to come out in the year and it's going to score really well, that you think either won't release that year or won't review very well. For every point above a 7 out, if it releases this year and it gets anywhere above a 7 out of 10, you lose points based on how far above a 7 out of 10 is. So you're trying to find the secret bad game, or the that's going to get delayed, that's going to get cancelled game to be your counter pick. And then at the end of it, can we redeem the points of prizes? You can redeem them for bragging rights on the Discord, is about what you can do with them. But yeah, today's stream, we're going to talk a little bit about the 2025 league that's just finished, and then maybe talk about the rules for the 2026 league, and I'm going to try and encourage more people to take part, because this was a really fun thing to do this year with our little group. If nothing else, it made us really aware of every video game that was coming out and what was considered good and not, and what all the weird niche could get. Like, I've never heard of this game, but it got an average review score of 95. What the fuck is that? I should check it out. Hey, the BT, thank you very much for the 57 months of sub. Bananas, that is all. Yeah, so this was our, let me make sure I've got my mouse in the correct window. This was our league for 2025, and, we'll get the actual scores out of the way, and then I'll talk about some of the strategy and the choices people made and things like that. Saint Nobody says, I got nervous about my counter pick when Hyperlight Breaker hit early access early in the year. Then it failed for a lot of reasons I thought it might, and it never got a full release. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you're looking for in counter picks, not the batshit bonkers nonsense I did with my counter pick this year, which I will talk about. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this, I should probably talk about the thing that I was very clear about when I started set up a Fantasy Critic League last year, which was, how will I deal with the fact that I'm a games critic and that I might have some additional information other people might not have about video games when taking part in this league? And how do I make it fair? How do I not use my insider information to, to cheat the system? So I made a pledge to people up front, and I will pledge this again for 2026 if people want to get involved in another Fantasy Critic League. I will not bid or draft on any video game that I have secret information about. Maybe I played a behind closed doors press demo of it at some point that I can't talk about, or I don't know, I did some consulting on it at some point, I did mock review work for it. Anything where it's like, I've played a build of that game, and everyone else in the league hasn't, and I know whether it's likely to be a good game or not. Like, I might even know what it's at and what its predicted metascore is. If I've done mock review work, I might know what a handful of reviewers have estimated its review score to be. I will not draft any of those. An example, I deliberately didn't draft South of Midnight this year, a game I was very excited about, because I had done mock review work on that game. I was like, I know more about that game than the average person. I probably shouldn't draft it. So I am a little bit hamstrung in the league, and I say this not to be like, oh, I should have done better. I am fighting with a little bit of a disadvantage on my side, in that there are a lot of big budget games that I am not allowed to bid on and pick in the draft. So I got to play on hard mode a little bit. Granted, I play more video games than most people in the league because of my job, but I also there are big budget games that I would easily pick up early in a draft that I can't pick up early in a draft. Hey, Incompetent Hero, thank you very much for the 41 months of sub. Oh hey, it's that thing I lost terribly at. You came in 8th of 8, but hey, you got like 70 points. We can talk about how everyone did. I'm gonna go through like the individual rank things, and I think there's two very clear things that caught you out on the draft this year. But I think regardless of how people did, I think this was really fun to do throughout the year. So let's have a look. And I think the order we've got here reflects the order of the draft. So, like, Rack the Lion got the first pick. Incompetent Judgments Inc. got the second pick. So we each picked our first, and then it went in reverse order, and we picked our second, etc. So yeah, let's talk about Wreck the Lion's picks. Where did Wreck the Lion was our winner this year, with 116 points. So first person in the draft did very well. Let's have a look at where these things played out. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, I think a really solid early pick. It inevitably had to come out this year, and I think that's a very sensible first pick to go for. Terminator 2D No Fate, 76 points. That's a solid 7.5 out of 10. What you're gonna notice with Wreck the Lion is not a lot of stuff going above 90, but a real consistent, like, mid to high 80s streak. Citizen Sleeper 2, Star Wars Vector. That's a sequel to a very successful indie. Makes a lot of sense. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I did not expect this to land as close to a 90 as it did. I think that was a great call. Very well picked there. Death Stranding 2, On the Beach. A divisive game getting a weird sequel. That rocking a 90. Fab to see. Incompetent Hero, yeah, we'll get to talking about your holding out for a 3D Mario, yeah. Silent Hill F. So, the way that this works is I think it was the first 5 games get drafted at the start of the year, and then you have a budget of like 100 fantasy bucks to bid on other ones throughout the year. Silent Hill F, as this year went on, became clear was going to be one that, like, people were... previews were coming in real hot on that. I think this is one that a couple of people bid on, and that Wreck the Lion got, and it was anything that gets above an 80 is well worth having in your roster. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, 83, Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers, Atomfall. Oh yeah, this is the other thing. 2 of the slots last year, and I'm going to do the same this year. 2 of the slots have to be for NGF, which is New Game Franchise. Two of those slots, and I think one of them you have to do in the initial draft, one of them you can do later in the year, have to be for something that isn't a sequel, isn't in a recognized franchise. And this is honestly where I think some of the coolest picks came from in the whole draft, were having to try and find something that, like, isn't a sequel, isn't an established franchise, that you think's going to be good. Atomfall, I think, was a really solid pick for New Game Franchise. I think that was a really... Rebellion have a pretty solid track record. I doubted that was ever going to get below a 7 out of 10. I thought it would go higher, but I think it was a good pick. And the counter pick for Showa American Story, that never came out, I believe. Did not release in the year, yeah. So that's great. A 0 points on your counter pick is ideal. 0 means it didn't cost you points. What you don't want is to counterpick something and then have it still release and score well. I think if you can get a 0 on your counterpick, that really helps. I think my counterpick this year was the thing that cost me first place, and I took some gambles on it. Saint Nobody says, I have a lot of difficulty separating out my feelings about games from what I expect from critics. Yeah, you'll see this with my very first pick of the year. I very much went for a pick that was, I want this to be good and I'm excited for it, and not a pick that was a sensible pick if I wanted to get good points, but we'll get to that in a minute. I only am decent at predicting what's the critical response to a game going to be, because one of the things I have to do when I do mock review work is I have to do Metascore predictions, where I have to divorce myself from my opinion of the game, and I have to go, what do I think the average game reviewer is going to numerically think of this game? Which is an interesting skill that I think Fantasy Critic has definitely helped me hone. So yeah, let's talk about Incompetent Judgment Inc. Doom the Dark Ages, very solid first pick. I think that's a great first round pick. Totally understand going for it. It was a really smart one to jump on. Now you might notice Incompetent Judgment Inc. Incompetent Hero has an empty gap here. Now what I believe happened here was one. I think this is the one that was 3D Mario. You can draft games that haven't been announced, but that people think are kind of likely to maybe get announced during the year. And I believe Incompetent Hero did a bid on unannounced 3D Mario, Because everyone thought that was the big thing, that like the Odyssey team's next game was going to be another 3D Mario game, and it was going to be for the Switch 2 launch. I do think Redneck Dinosaur Mansion should have scored higher. But yeah, they got in a bid for a draft for 3D Mario, and I think that was a really smart one to go for. And then the Odyssey team announced they were working on a Donkey Kong game. And Incompetent Hero held on to unannounced 3D Mario, kind of in the hopes that there was still something that would technically fit that description coming this year, and they could score some good points on it. And by the time that it was like, oh, officially that's not happening this year, it was too late in the year to find something new that hadn't yet come out that might get scored reviews in time for the end of the draft. Incompetent Hero says, Showa finally got its 2026 window announced like last week. Yeah, so there's a system in place where if a game gets announced that it's officially definitely delayed into next year, you can drop it and pick something else. But if it never got announced in the first place, or it never officially gets delayed, you are stuck with it. And that does make going for unannounced 3D Mario, for example, a risky proposition. Now, during the year, you have one optional drop, where without any particular reason, you can just drop a thing. Working out strategically when to take a risky pick, and when to use your conditional drop to get rid of that risky pick, go for something else. Definitely a tricky thing. Yeah, you spent 70 points to get DK. You spent 70% of your fictional fun bucks to get Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it definitely paid off for you. But you were hoping that 91 out of 123 points was going to come off of 3D Mario, and you'd have had that slot. You'd have had Donkey Kong available to bid on something else, and I can see how that really screwed with your bid. That game would ruin lives before Silksong's release. Oh, we'll get to my predictions. I went in on Silksong real early. But yeah, the first Berserk and Kazan. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Yeah, because like looking at Incompetent Heroes like picks that paid off, you got an 81, a 91, an 81. Shadow Labyrinth was maybe your one poor score. The 100 Line Lance Defense Academy. You were stuck with Showa American Story because one of the rules is if you bid on a thing, if you draft a thing and someone else counterpicks it, you then can't drop that game. And getting stuck with a thing that didn't release gave you a second 0 slot, and I think that those are the two things that really hurt. Although, Shadow Labyrinth was a 69, so I guess that was slightly worse. Other than Shadow Labyrinth and the couple of things that didn't release, you had a lot of really high scorers. You just got stuck with a couple of negative point value categories on. Incompetent Hero says, I also dropped Shadow Labyrinth, but it still went through for some reason. I guess dropping the morning of the update was a bad idea. Things we learn. If you wanna drop a thing, you gotta do it a little quicker than that, I guess. Yeah, we'll talk about some of the risks I took with my initial picks. These are things you learn when you do Fantasy Critic. So yeah, then we go down to Genevieve Graves, or Graveyard. Unannounced Mario Kart World was the first pick, which I think was at the time unannounced 3D Mario Kart. This was like a week before Mario, like the Switch 2 trailer with the Mario Kart footage in it showed up. Fucking fantastic timing. Nearly a 90. That's a pretty solid first pick. Pokemon Legends ZA, I think, was another really strong pick. It was, even the most poorly received Pokemon games of recent years have done above a 7. You were in with some safe points there. It was gonna come out. It was gonna happen. Kingdom Hearts 4 was the big difficult one here. It was bid on. It got counterpicked, so it couldn't be dropped. It didn't come out flat 0. Maracas Common says, it's a good thing you aren't that popular, Laura. Otherwise, this tournament could fuck up the industry with people manipulating reviews to get a certain outcome. I don't allow anyone in this league who publishes scored reviews that might incentivize them to, like, I do reviews. My reviews are not scored. If I like a game or I don't like a game, it's not gonna... me saying I loved a game that I had in my personal draft isn't going to, like, it's not like I'm giving it a higher numerical score that's gonna bump my score in Fantasy Critic up, which is, you know, how I justify that, but, yeah. Oh, hello, welcome Raiders, hello, it's Colo. Welcome Raiders. I should probably explain to you what we're doing, because this is a very talkative stream today. I did something this year called Fantasy Critic. We got a bunch of people together to draft video games from the upcoming year that we thought would review well at the start of the year. And then as the year rolled in, we all scored various points based on how our video games reviewed. So we are currently looking through 2025's league to go who most accurately predicted 2025 review scores at the start of the year. Just having a look at what we've learned from this, because we did a lot of predicting what games we thought might or might not be good at the start of the year. It's sports betting, but for video games. So yeah, going through Graveyard's list again. Kingdom Hearts 4 is really the only thing that got a flat score. Everything else on Graveyard's list... Actually, yeah, everything else on Graveyard's list is, like, in around or above the 80s mark. Where did Graveyard come in the rankings at the end? 4th place. Yeah, just 4 points shy of me. Pretty close. In the top 4. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 4 not being droppable because it got counterpicked meant that, like, that being locked in... This is the thing. The thing I've learned this year is that your counterpick is really make or break for, where your year's going to end up, I think. Oh, hey, Izzy. Dandelion and Izzy the Penguin teamed up for this and came second to last. I think you did great, but we'll talk about your draft when we get there. Elabine, this is such a... I had so much fun doing this year. And hey, spoilers, by the end of this stream, I will be sharing a link for anyone that wants to be part of our 2026 league. I am expanding this so we can have a slightly bigger league this year. It's been a really fun excuse to just, like, keep on top of review scores and what's coming out in the year, and having a little competitiveness of, like, that thing I thought was good turned out to be good. Heck yeah. But yeah, looking through Graveyard's list, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake, that's a really solid pick. Everyone loves the HD 2D art style. It's two games that people have fond opinions of already. I think that was a very sensible place to land. Hello Kitty Island Adventure, solid 8 out of 10. I'm glad that game did not tank. The Fantasy Life, the Girl Who Steals Time. This was very heavily in Nintendo Direct. You'll see there's a lot of Nintendo influence on Graveyard's list this year. A lot of titles that had come up in Nintendo Directs in the run-up to the drafting, and honestly, if Nintendo reckons it's going to be good enough to put in a Direct, it getting an 8 out of 10 is not a ridiculous thing to bet on. Shinobi Art of Vengeance, is this... Yeah, this is tied with Mario Kart World for Graveyard's best scoring game of the year. Great side-scrolling platformer action game. Date Everything, 8 out of 10. Demon School, 76. Grand Theft Auto counterpick. I think this was a very smart counterpick. A Rockstar game getting delayed beyond its initially planned release. I think that was a very safe bet. If you're betting against a game, I think GTA 6 this year was safe to bet against. Will it be safe to bet on or against next year? I don't know. I think this might be the year it releases, and maybe I'll take that gamble. As you'll see in a second when we get to my fantasy draft, which is the next one we're going to talk about, I took some wild swings this year. You did do a very jolly list for a publisher called Graveyard. You picked a lot of very colourful games for a spooky collection of games. So yeah, let's dive into it. Let's talk about my predictions for the year. So, first game I drafted was Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. I did not expect this to get me big points. I did not expect this to be a 9 out of 10 or higher, which I was 4th in the draft. I really should have been trying to grab something I thought would be a 90+ scoring game this early in the draft. I was just really excited for Pirate Yakuza because it was like a month out from release, and I was like, if I don't bid on this game and no one's gonna, I want to be its big defender. I want to root for it to get a good review score. I want to show I believe in it. So I made my first pick a game that was never really going to get above an 8 out of 10 average score, and I'm proud of that. I don't regret it in the slightest. Statistically not the best first round pick to have made, but I was very happy with it. Second pick, Hollow Knight Silk Song. I got some people were laughing at me at the time that I believed strongly enough it was going to be a 2025 game to bid on it. And it paid off. 9 out of 10, solid 91. It is my highest scoring game of the year. Once I got Pirate Yakuza out of the way, the next draft I did was the highest scoring game of the year. So once I got my silly pick out the way, I did jump in on the thing I was confident would be my best scorer of the year. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, 85. This is one that the original game holds up really well, and it was a very good-looking, long in development remake of that thing people already really like. I was confident this was going to get an 8 or above. Like, even the worst adaptation of Snake Eater was still going to be an 8 out of 10 game, and I'm glad that paid off. Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 4 was one of these that I drafted. I don't think it was in my initial draft. I think I dropped something from the initial draft. But this got a reveal and a preview in like a February Xbox presentation. And I was like, Platinum Games, Ninja Gaiden published by Xbox. Those all sound like words that might be like a 95 rated game. Now, it ended up in an 82. Opinion was flatter on it than I expected. I looked back at previous year's Platinum Games review scores, and I was like, Platinum, you're not going to get below an 8 out of 10. If anything on this year felt like it could have been a 95 plus. A new big budget Platinum Games title felt like somewhere kind of reasonable to put that prediction. Dandelion, thank you very much for the 54 months of sub. Purple Penguin prediction subscription time. Saint Nobody says, I'm always just skeptical of Konami's ability to not fuck things up. Yeah, but even if they fucked it up, I was confident it would get me a positive score. I didn't think... I was like, it's got potential for a 90. If they fuck it up, it's an 80. Yeah, Incompetent Hero says, the real surprise for me was how often tiny, unheard of indies got 80 plus scores. Gonna keep my eye on those this year. I have... Those kind of games are a real gamble. Because sometimes they won't get enough reviews to get an average score on OpenCritic. In which case, they release but you don't get a score for them and you are kind of screwed. There was some real good, like, 90 plus scored indies we'd never heard of, and that's the thing. We have it set up so that in the Discord we get like a little ping whenever a game like gets a new game gets a review score through Fantasy Critic, and it turned me on to trying so many interesting little indies where I was like, I've never heard of it, but it got a 9 out of 10 average review score. I should probably give that a little look. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I put my gambling on this one because it was a Hyrule Warriors game in the launch year of new Nintendo hardware that had a tiny snippet of footage that made it look 60 FPS, which it did ultimately release at. I really thought 60 FPS Dynasty Warriors game with Nintendo characters would be enough for people to have like a renewed bit of interest, and this would be like in the mid-80s. I was really counting on the Nintendo Switch 2 hype and excitement to carry me up a little bit there. The Outer Worlds 2, 83. This was just... It was a known-name franchise where the first game reviewed really well, and the idea of, like, going in on the second entry seemed... It was a safe bet. We were... At this point, I was running out of slots, and I needed some big names. That were at least likely to get me... My thought was if I at least get 10 points on a game, I feel decent about it. Yeah, I have a lot of opinions about Age of Imprisonment as well, but I didn't know at the time, you know, you know what you know. Borderlands 4, this was a shot in the dark. It was a big AAA game that seemed to be previewing well. Late in the year, I need to fill a slot. How bad could it be? I was hoping for higher, but like it's Borderlands. What did I expect? Honestly, I'm very proud of how my 2 new game franchises did. Wonder Stop, that is the game about going through a period of burnout and having to make tea in the woods, from the writer of the Stanley Parable. I thought this was going to be, of the 2 new game franchises I picked, I thought this one was going to be my gem darling. People hadn't really been talking about it. It was from the Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide writer. I thought, oh, this has potential to be another, like, 95-plus game. And it ultimately just didn't land with people. You know, 81 average score is reasonable, but I was hoping this would be, like, the next, oh my god, the video game industry is rocked by this mindfuck of a video game, you know? And then, Dispatch. Dispatch, I took a gamble on early in the year, and I almost dropped Dispatch multiple times. I was really paranoid that, Dispatch was going to get review bombed from, like, people going... The critique people had of stuff like, Forspoken, the, oh, it's too, like, cheesy Marvel dialogue. I was... I was concerned that it was going to get, like... It's too obsessed with sex jokes. Like, the adult humor is too forced. I thought it was going to be one of those. I thought it was going to get the kind of complaints that people levy at, like, Has Been Hotel, and it was gonna kind of bomb. I think 87 for a new game franchise that people hadn't heard of. Like, it was a new game from the Telltale people. That could have gone either way. Their track record is very mixed, but I was very proud of how that did. Hey, Tara, thank you very much for the 26 months of sub. So many months! Dispatch got spared that, but in trade we got it in Prime 4. Yeah, I think releasing similarly in time, or Dispatch releasing right around when the preview footage of Prime 4 happened, really protected Dispatch from a lot of that critique. And then let's talk about the thing that cost me first place, because if I didn't have minus 19, I would be on... 122... Yeah, I'd have been quite heavily in first place, if not for my counterpick that cost me 19 points. Let's talk about Deltarune and its 89 review score. So, to be clear, I never doubted that if Deltarune got reviews this year, they would be good reviews. I was confident if it got reviews this year, they would be good reviews. I was betting on the fact that Deltarune would not get scored reviews this year, because it was very clear that if we got any Deltarune this year, it was going to be chapters 3 and 4 out of a 7-chapter game, and we'd already had chapter 1 and chapter 2 release and not get, like, scored reviews, because it's not a complete game yet. And 3 and 4 were paid, and I think that's why sites were like, oh, it's okay, it's fair to start scoring it now. But in my mind, I was like, I don't think this game's going to get review scores until all 7 chapters are out, because until you know how this thing sticks the landing, why would you give it a scored review? Go, here is how it is so far, but, like, obviously it's incomplete, we don't know how it's going to end. And yeah, I completely ate shit on this one. This was the thing that cost me first place, was, in the same way that, like, you know, Grievard counterpicked GTA 6, every point I earned from Hollow Knight Silksong, from betting on that game coming out in 2025, got cancelled out by me betting against Deltarune getting review scores. If I'd have put, like, a 7 out of 10 game in that slot, I'd have lost fewer points. If I'd have just made a safe counterpick of, like, what's a reasonable counterpick? I'd have, I think, still got first place if I counterpicked something that was an 8 out of 10. If I counterpicked, like, Hello Kitty Island Adventure, I think I'd have still got first place. I just really screwed myself over on the counterpick, and it's the thing that cost me first, and it's the lesson I gotta learn this year, is don't take risks on the counterpick. Dandelion says, I was required to pick Deltarunners as one of my daughter's obsessions. Here's the problem. I was gonna pick it if you didn't. I was gonna pick it, and then I was like, well, if I can't pick it, I'm picking against it. Hey, Rule Spider. Happy New Year. Hope you had a good Christmas and a good New Year's Eve. I had a lovely festive time off. Granted, I was ill for like 4 days of my 2-week break, which is not ideal. That's time I should have been relaxing, not being ill. But I did go see some friends and play a bunch of board games and watch some good TV and just hang out with some lovely people. I had a very nice time. It was very chill. I did some Gundam building. I've been reading the Captain Janeway autobiography from Star Trek Voyager. That's been nice. Yeah, Izzy says we cancelled each other out with our counterpicks. Yeah, we both picked a risky game and counterpicked the other. And we both countered each other's one of each other's best scoring games. We really tripped ourselves over on this one. That's one less than 1 point back and forth at the end. It was fun. Yeah. So let's go to Arachno Vault. First pick, Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, that game, it's wild to me that game has a nearly 90 average score, considering that all I remember about discussion around that game was it performs terribly, the performance is bad, it doesn't run well, why does it run so poorly? Like, that's all I remember about Monster Hunter Wilds releasing, but it got nearly a 90. Like, it was a great first round pick. Honestly, smart jump. Eka says, I've been craving some Gunpla. I might treat myself when I get my first paycheck. You landed a new job today? Hell yeah! Congrats! Fucking hell yeah! I'm proud of you, Echo. Hell yeah. So let's see, what else do we have? Brito Prisoner. No score. Did this release? Give me a second to look this up. Did this release and just not get enough reviews to get scored? There's a second round pick. Brito Prisoner. Yeah, it's out now. It's a 4v2 Prison Break party game. It looks really cute. It has 14 total reviews on Steam, which I'm guessing means it did not get enough critic reviews to get scored, but also it in theory could have done, so it didn't get like a free drop offered to it. Ouch, that is a rough one. I can see how where the prediction was there. Right, what else have we got? Ninja Gaiden Ragebound 86. Yeah, I think going for like franchise you've heard of does a side-scrolling based spin-off worked out really well this year. There wasn't a lot of DLC bid on this year, but Sea of Stars, Throes of the Watchmaker. A DLC for a really liked thing, if it gets enough scored reviews, yeah, that really paid off. Avowed, solid 8 out of 10. This was a whole point of discussion. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. So, our league did not allow remasters of games. Remasters where a game that already had reviews and we know how it reviews, that has been just kind of shinied up but not really tweaked at all, not allowed to be bid on, because we kind of already know exactly what that game is and therefore probably what it's going to review. You've got to let the Fantasy Critic League, their rules stand. You've got to follow their refs. Their refs deemed this a remake rather than a remaster, and therefore made it eligible. And it was a solid 82. There's a couple of games this year that Fantasy Critic they made their rulings on which categories they should fall in, and I'm not gonna argue with the refs, but I had the ability to overrule, and I'm like, nah, I'll take Fantasy Critic's judgment. But I think if a game's called Remastered, it's probably a remaster. Saint Nobody says, Brito Prisoner was a late replacement. It was one of the few games left to release in mid-December. Oh, okay, Brito Prisoner was one of these, I've had a dropped slot, but it's happened so late in the year, I've got to hope that something gets scored reviews like that's releasing in the last 2 weeks of the year will get scored reviews and review well. Yeah, that's a rough position to be in. Marvel Cosmic Invasion 81, South of Midnight 77. I really hoped this would score higher. Bit of transparency. God, nearly 2 years ago, I think I did mock reviews for South of Midnight, which meant I played an incomplete version a couple of years early to like tell the developers what I thought was working, what my review would have been if it released then. I expected this review better than that. I'm disappointed, like, just genuinely for the industry. I'm disappointed it scored where it did. It originally had GTA. Let me have a look. GTA was oh, it got delayed. I don't remember who had GTA. Yeah, South of Midnight was lovely. Too bad it got lost in the shuffle. Yeah, I expected it to break an 8, but oh well. And Unbeatable, that's another one I really expected. I really thought that Arachnivolt's new game franchise picks this year were really smart, very well considered. I really thought those two new game franchises were gonna be like 85 scorers, and they just didn't break through, and that's really disappointing. They were two of the new game franchises most on my radar. Yeah, they dropped it, which I was a bit confused because I counterpicked it. I don't know. We're gonna double check the rules this year. The first year we thought the rules were set up certain ways, but there was a lot of rules to take in for someone setting up the league for the first time. Now we've actually done this for a year. I understand the buttons I'm clicking on now, so we can be clearer about the rules this year. Did someone bet on Dispatch in the Battle of the Critics? I did. It got me like 17 points. It got me 17 points. It scored me nearly as many points as counterpicking Deltarune cost me. Say nobody's cool games for attractive people, for awesome people. I've got strong bad's cool game for awesome people stuck in my head. Ghost of Yote, great pick out the door. Sequel to a well-respected game. I really thought that would break 90, but I think 17 points on a first pick, fantastic. Pokemon Legends ZA Mega Dimension, I think is a Pokemon DLC, great pick. I did not expect that to be a negative score. I think it was when it was GTA was confirmed not to release it allowed a drop even when counterpick, which feels odd. There was a setting about allowing counterpick games to be dropped. Yeah. I don't think you can drop your counterpick. I think you're locked into your own counterpick. We're gonna set up the 2026 rules on stream today, so we can for certain work out what the rules for the 2026 season are gonna be. Yeah. Say Nobody's List had some real strong stuff and some real did not land how expected. I think the Pokemon DLC, such a strong pick. Really couldn't have predicted it going that way. Tron Catalyst. This is from Mike Bithell, right? It's a Mike Bithell related game. Mike Bithell's games have generally been really well received. Tron Catalyst just didn't hit the mark. And again, I think it's really solid logic. I think going Tron Catalyst was a great, sensible pick. Skate Story 84. I think that was one of those like indie darling Devolver games that had been like long in the works. I think it was a very, very sensible pick. Kirby Air Riders. That game feels like it's way more loved than an 82 average score would dictate. I think it was a smart one to jump on. Ball X Pit. I think these are some of the ones that are really worth jumping on. Is like the Clover Pit. You're like, what is Megabonk would have been great. What is the next dopamine indie? I want to be more aware of the dopamine indies in the drafting next year, like Raccoon, the game about a raccoon operating a coin pusher. that is on my radar as like an indie that I think might be a 85 to 90 scoring indie next year. Not that I should be giving that away, obviously. Split Fiction as a new game franchise, that's a really smart pick. Anything Joseph Fares puts out tends to break the 90 barrier, and yeah, really good shout. Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, 82. Again, I think any Xavier Nelson indie is a pretty solid bet. If it gets review scores, it's gonna at least break 80. Hyperlight Breaker didn't release in the year. You got 0. You didn't lose any points. That's a great counter pick. On paper, every choice that Saint Nobody made is like a very sensible, very reasonable choice. No wild, I don't see why you did that wild swings. And it just didn't shake out. And that's sometimes how these kind of predictions go. Saint Nobody says, I really screwed up when I replaced Slay the Spire 2 with the Pokemon DLC. Wow. I was between that and Death Howl, but I overestimated Pokemon and was uncertain on Death Howl. I was actually really sick when I bid on Professors and should have bid on Lumines. Lessons learned on both counts. In future, if it was like a sickness delirium incorrect bid, let me know as the league organizer. I will undo things in the background, undo things behind the scenes to help you out if it's I clicked the wrong thing because I was ill. I don't want anyone to be stuck with a thing in their draft because I was ill and I clicked the wrong button. I would love to see a follow-up to Dispatch, but agreed, I don't want them to like absolutely crunch themselves trying to get it out. Take their time. Do something completely different, do a follow-up, do whatever you want to do, but like don't try and churn those games out at that speed. Yeah, Tron Catalyst bombed and it absolutely gutted the studio. Yeah, from what I'm aware, Bithell Studios. My Bithell studio had to like completely scale back and let a bunch of people go. Tron Catalyst underperforming like absolutely fucked up his indie studio, and that's a real shame. I've been following Mike's work since Thomas Was Alone was like not yet released. He wrote a section that ended up in Mario's butt. There's like a 4-page spread from Mike Bithell talking about how Thomas Was Alone is a story secretly, subtextually all about butts. He's a real good sport. This monitor just off the side of the screen here is his old TV he gave me after a whole long story. I ended up dragging his old monitor from London back to Bournemouth and almost getting stopped by the police because I looked like I'd stolen it. Mike's lovely. I completely understand bidding on Tron Catalyst. It could not have been seen it was going that way. No, not Her Story. Her Story is no, I forget. Mike Bithell was like what were the games? Thomas Was Alone was the big indie back in the day, the little squares telling a story. So nice to see Alana Pierce getting some recognition for voice acting. She's played the lead in Bolt Gun 2, she's playing a Citrus Battle. Alana Pierce is lovely, another person who is in the Butts book. Alana is genuinely lovely. We've chatted a few times, she's done work stuff with me. She's so lovely, and I'm so glad that she's getting really good voice acting work. I'm Alex C, thank you very much for the 29 months of sub. I had a lovely Christmas and New Year. I ate a lot of food and played a lot of board games with very chill friends. It was lovely. Mike Bithell is the guy who did Thomas Was Alone and John Wick Hex. Yes, plus one that Steph did voice acting in, and I forget what that one was called. The one that was about like It was Robin Hood, but hackers. That Steph did some voice work in. And I forget what that one is called. Track record of not just making good games, but good licensed games. Yes. Subsurface Circular, yeah. Quarantine Circular. Bunch of others. Yeah. John Wick Hex is like a 95 out of 100 rated game. Mike Bithell did some really good work on very well-received licensed games for, like, Disney properties. Disney, like, absolutely fucking loved the critical reception that his licensed tie-in games did, which is, again, why it's such a sensible pick for early drafting. I cannot fault picking Tron Catalyst in this draft. At the time, I thought it was an amazing, like, big brain pick. Right, so, last two in talking about last year's draft. Serendipity Games Co., that's Spirit Muse. Elden Ring Night Rain, I think, was a really strong first round pick. Obviously, by the time I get into Serendipity, this is like the 7th pick in the first round, so Spirit Muse has to make some, like, some of the big hitters are gone, but I think Elden Ring Night Rain was like, it's From Software doing something. It's a little risky because they're doing something different out of their wheelhouse. It didn't hit a 9 out of 10, but like it reviewed decently well. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Yeah, this was where we realized I thought we'd set it so that remasters couldn't be bid on, and then this was very bid on-able. And this is just a thing I'm gonna say as a what word am I looking for? A friendly agreement among everyone. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I'm gonna say Scout's Honor. I'm gonna ask people this year, if you see there is a thing that's clearly, oh, it's a game from like the last decade with a HD coat of paint and it's biddable. It's not meant to be biddable. The rules of the league should not have that be biddable. Try and avoid bidding on it. You know, it didn't give amazing points here. It was a 7-point lead, but just on principle, I think game that we've already played but in HD is too much of a known quantity to necessarily be an interesting pick. Like, just the one popping up here isn't the end of the world. Just in terms of, like, my opinion on the league, I don't think it's an interesting thing to be drafted in the league, you know? Damn, that track has got head bopping. Thanks for the good tunes to go with the stream. Thanks. These are back OST tracks from the Yakuza series. These are just chill Yakuza tracks we're listening to today. If you want to know what a particular track's called, let me know and I can probably find out. Sportsman's agreement? Gentleman's agreement, but that's a very gendered term. But yeah, that's the gist of what we're trying to get to. 2 Point Museum, 85. Yeah, that game did really well. If you can find a franchise that has a good track record and jump in on the next entry in franchise that's probably not going to change too much, but it'll be a new genre, so it'll still feel fresh. Great place to pick. Off, 80. Trails in the Sky first chapter, 90. Assassin's Creed Shadows, 81. I'm amazed we got this far down before Assassin's Creed. Because this was definitely known, because, yeah, by the previous summer, like, previews had been happening at, like, Gamescom. I'm surprised Assassin's Creed Shadows hadn't been bid on this far into the draft, honestly. Rhythm Doctor getting an 88 is fantastic. I interviewed the developers of that game back on Indie Haven, before this was my full-time job. I'm gonna say, like, 15 years ago I interviewed the Rhythm Doctor devs, and like, did a whole, like, little piece about their game when it was still, like, a university project, and it finally came out this year, and I'm so glad it got good reviews. It's, like, really nice to see. Kingdom Hearts 4 being a counterpick, great counterpick. You got a 0, that's what you want to see on counterpick. Chill lo-fi beats to fight for your sworn brothers and relax with. Hell yeah. Then, Purple Predictions time. Yeah, this is Izzy and Dandelion created a little team together. Deltarune as a first pick. That was a great first pick. You took the gamble on will it release, will it get review scores, and you won that gamble. Well done, well put. Sid Meier's Civ 7. I think that's another very solid, like, it's not going to get 90s. No Civilization game does out the door. They always get the critique of, well, it's not as good as the previous Civ that's had like 6 years of patches and expansions. It's not that good. But it was never going to get below a 7. I think it was a very safe place to pick. Rift of the Necrodancer, 8 out of 10. I am glad that game did well. Hyperlight Breaker did not release. It was counterpicked. Yeah, this was a counterpicked one that couldn't be dropped. Got stuck with, unfortunately. Isn't 7 still very much broken? Yeah, Civ 7 is still very much broken, but it's playably broken, and the community's fine with that, it seems. Power Wash Simulator 2, great pick, 84. Another DLC pick. DLC picks are always good on this. Lies of P Overture, 86. If you can find an anticipated big DLC, and again, it doesn't always work, because we talked about the Pokemon DLC above, getting a -3 being a 67, but like, on the whole, DLC is definitely a thing to keep in mind in the drafting process. To a T, 7 out of 10. I bid on this as well, and I got outbid on it, and I was confident I would probably lose points on it, but I wanted to bid on it anyway, because as the accessibility person, I gotta at least try and bid on it. I gotta believe in it. I really, really, really wanted to like that game more than I did. I think the storyline about parental lineage in that game is fucking bonkers, and I love it. I think a lot of the time it has really nice disability representation that, like, I do think genuinely is very, very important and very impactful. Some of the narrative beats, like not getting changed out of pajamas when going out to look for the missing service animal, because doing so would require mum's help to get changed, and that's a loss of autonomy that they're not ready to acknowledge. Beautiful fucking storytelling. But also, it really suffers from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer problem, and I don't blame people for having higher expectations of it than it gave. I did think it would score higher than this. We still sing the songs from To a T. I need to finish it. I still sing the songs from To a T. You are the perfect shape. You are the perfect shape. It's wholesome. It's charming. It's got Rebecca Sugar on the soundtrack. I think it's criminal that it only got a 7 out of 10, but I also, like, I get it. I get how it got there. Rule Spider, I don't blame you being miffed about it. I'm not getting into the nuances of it, but you're not wrong about Civ 7. Yeah. Look, Dandelion, considering you came quite low, Izzy and Danny in the scoring this year, I would argue you got the most important game in the draft. How did Clair Obscur only have a 92 average score, considering how much it fucking walked everything this year? You grabbed Clair Obscur as a new game franchise, and I think everyone has to acknowledge you grabbed this year's darling. Wasn't on a sorry, bit of a sore throat. You really picked the new game franchise of the year. The thing that was going to define new game franchises this year. Frankly, the thing that defined video games this year. I think you need to be given some credit. For if nothing else, you deserve credit for having gone Clair Obscur is worth grabbing. I did not believe that strongly in Clair Obscur, and my job is to be aware of video games and what's going to be good. Hell yeah, damn yeah, well done. I gotta congrats you there. Abiotic Factor, 84. That's a real solid one. I'm glad that game came in and out to full release. I played a lot of that this year with Jane. I had a great time with it. Dandelion says, we're still in discussion on whether we're playing together again this year. Ooh, are you potentially going against each other? The alternative is you could be in different leagues from each other, in which case you can both make similar picking decisions and eventually be scored against each other, but be in slightly different pools so it doesn't feel quite so competitive against each other, is an option. Because we're maybe going to run a couple of pools this year rather than like just one centralized one, and everyone gets scored in their individual pool and bids in their pool, and then gets scored collectively at the top. If we're against each other, we're against each other. Okay, yeah, cool, makes sense. Yeah, and really the only thing that really hurt you, other than Hyperlight Breaker not releasing, was Silksong. You bet against Silksong and it got you, much like I bet against Deltarune and it got me. If you had, what, an extra 22 points, where would that have put you on the list? 82, 22, 104. You'd have been in 3rd place. You'd have been in 3rd place if not for counterpicking Silk Song. Much like I'd have been in 1st place if I hadn't counterpicked Deltarune. We really are the victims of we made risky choices on counterpick, and we were the 2 teams that really saw most the risk you take with counterpicking too close to the sun, as you say, right? So yeah, if folks are interested, I'm going to be running another of these for 2026, and I'm gonna open this up to people. We've been streaming for about an hour talking about last year's picks. It's been honestly so fun going through and doing this throughout the year. I want to pull up. I've started working on the Conference League for this next year, and I want to double check how I've set the settings for this year before we go ahead. But let me... So I've got to go to the Lower Campus League. This is the one that sets... Set league options. Okay, so what have we got set? Everyone bids on 10 standard games. 5 of them drafted at the start of the year, 5 being picked up with your bidding bucks. 1 counter pick that you draft at the start of the year. Counter pick deadline doesn't really matter, because that would be if we were doing the option... So there's an option where you can have it to be like, I'll decide what my counter pick is and bid on the counter pick throughout the year, which we're not doing. The might release droppable date maybe is an interesting setting to explore this year, which is the at what point in the year do we go, that game doesn't have a release date, you can have the space back for free? I don't want to do it as early as November 1st if we do it. If we have that as an option, I think it should be like December 1st, and you've got to scramble for a December release, I think is not the worst thing. If you want to bid on a game, you're going to have to bid at least $1 fantasy dollar. Any games that like officially won't come out in 2026, you can drop. You can drop 1 game throughout the year that hasn't yet released but has a release date. So 1 like unconditional drop. Counter picks block drops. I want to make sure we have this set this year. If you bid on and draft a game and someone counter picks it, you are locked into that pick. You can't drop it once it's been counter picked. I think that's just an interesting wrinkle. Secret bidding, so you don't know if someone's bid on a game until a winner gets announced, which makes Summer Games Fest week really interesting. If there's a tie break, so if this is an interesting one that was offered, and I want to hear what people's opinions on this are. If I bid 40 fantasy bucks on I don't know, Tears of the Kingdom 2, and someone else in the league also secretly bids 40 fantasy bucks for that, I think the fairest way to tie break that bid is whoever is currently predicted to get the lowest score in the league. Whoever's like current predicted score is the lowest gets to win the tiebreaker. So people who are losing get preferential treatment if you both bid the same on a secret bid. The person in the worst position in the predicted league gets to win the tiebreak on the bid. Trading system, no trades. I think that's sensible. I think allowing trades gets too metagamey with stuff, and I don't think it necessarily feels clean if you get a winner, because it's like, well, I could see I was going to lose, so I traded my high point thing to someone who was in second place to help them jump into first. I'm like, I don't really like that. 2 points per point over 90, so that getting above a 90 is really rewarded if you can make it. Currently, games that are already in early access can't be bid on. Director's cuts of existing games like Persona 5 Royale can't be bid on. Partial remakes can't be bid on. Ports to new platforms. Games that are already released in one country but just not in others can't be bid on. Remasters can't be bid on. And yearly installments. So you can't just go, the next Madden. Well, then maybe we make yearly installments available. Do we ban yearly installments, or do we let yearly installments be yearly installments? There's one special game slot. It should be 2. I want to change that to 2. I want to change it to 2 new game franchises again. 2 new game franchises last year was really fun. As someone who's new to this whole fantasy critic thingy, is that website limited to pro critics? Is it the website yours or someone's in the chat? So it's a website someone else made. They have a Patreon. They're fantasycritic.games. Anyone can take part in this. You don't have to be a professional reviewer to be part of the league and predict review scores. The scores, like, determining how good the game was and who gets points is... There is a website called OpenCritic. It's kind of like Metacritic, but it's open source. They determine an average review score across scored reviews on the internet. They make that into a number, and the number tells you who got points for that game. Yeah, yearly release franchises honestly being playable. Yeah, let me... How do I tweak the rules? Yeah, let's have another look at this. So, 10 games total on the roster, 1 counter pick. Will release, will not release. Counter picks, block drops. You know what? Let's take yearly installment. You can bid on a yearly installment. I keep clicking on the wrong screen. Add a special slot. New gaming franchise. So, if I have... Total number of games will be 10. The 2 special slots aren't adding on, so it's still 10 total. With yearly releases, you run into a lot of sports games. So unless you do play sports games from time to time, that could do you dirty, no? Yeah, I think that's why we make it available. It's... Unless you're really dialed in, you don't know if a sports game's going to have a good or a bad year next year, and I think it's reasonable to have that in there. Those British points must be released. I think this is going to be 1st of December. I think we go 1st of December. You can drop anything that doesn't have a confirmed release date for the year that, like... Sure, I guess it could come in the final month of the year. I think that's a tight enough turnaround that you're going to struggle to find a good 70 or higher scoring game that's due to release in December, hasn't released yet, and will get enough reviews in December to get an average review score. Yeah. In that case, if people are interested in taking part in the 2026 league, I should probably open that up and make it available. So it's the conference. I got to invite. Got to get the link. I don't know when we're going to do the draft yet. We're probably going to leave it a week or 2 before we actually do the draft, just so that we have time for people to join and not having it be a mad scramble. But you know what? Let's share the link for the first time. Folks should be able to start joining the conference, and then we can work out how we're going to organize people into little sub leagues. Depending on how much interest we get, if we get enough interest that we're going to do a couple of smaller sub leagues within one big conference, I will need someone to be like the conference manager for some of the, like, for each sub-league we'll need one person who is like the point of contact for that sub-league. What was your verdict on Nintendo Switch 2 edition releases like Animal Crossing or potentially Pikmin? Not eligible. If it's the same thing but higher frame rate, higher resolution, we kind of know how it's gonna be received. We know if it's a good game or not. It's not an interesting pick necessarily. But I'm gonna share the link quickly in 2026 League sign up link. Now, if I'm gonna join this, I should. Where is? I'm gonna have. I put that on the wrong side. I need to create a publisher for myself, so. Okay, Buzz Predictions Co. My publisher for the year. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2 new game franchises and a counter pick. If you do not fill the slot by the end of the year, it counts as minus 15 points. Ooh. No, that should not be. Change here specific options. X. Settings. Yeah, I think everyone has to draft their counter pick in the initial draft. Yes, okay, so that, I did set that right. But there we go. Are we having a gentleman's agreement of no bidding on games you're working on again this year? Yeah, of course, 100%. I will not be bidding on any games that I have done any work on or have seen behind the scenes things about. Any games where my job has given me the ability to see a build of a game that the general public would not have seen, and that there are not public previews of. Like, if I went to a press event and played a game, but I've written online what my opinions of the game were based on that preview event, I'm not working on secret info. But much like last year, I will not be doing any kind of bidding or drafting based on things that I have insider career information about. And I think, obviously, same goes for everyone else if everyone else is happy to do so. If you have secret insidery information about a game, don't bid on it. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to do much longer of a stream today. What I might do is I might pause the stream for like 2 minutes and then come back and do some shiny hunting or something. Can we join later in the year? No. Unfortunately, you can't, because the way that this works is at the start of the year, everyone does the big initial draft. You got to be around for the big initial draft. So you got a couple of weeks. I am probably not going to actually do the start of the league itself and the drafting for, I'm gonna guess, like, a week and a half, 2 weeks, like probably end of next week. And as such, you got a little time to decide. Ultimately, it's gonna be pick a video game. You know what? We got a little time while still on this topic on the stream tonight. Yeah, Izzy joined me. She was sign up by a day. Yeah, I'll be honest. Last year, I locked it in a little quicker than I probably should have done, because I was having an ADHD I've latched onto a thing and I'm excited about a thing, and therefore I wanted to do the draft like ASAP because that was where the new dopamine was. I'm going to be calmer about it this year. I'm going to be more patient. Chuzu Adam says, I'm very tempted to join, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither did any of us when we did it the first time. Honestly, it's like, I can show you the gist of how this is going to work when it comes time for drafting. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of things that I think will help if you're unsure where to start. So let's say you decide to take part in this and we do the draft, and it's you've got a little Discord notification that pops up and goes, it's time. You should be bidding on a game. And you don't know what to bid on? If you go to the games tab, Fantasy Critic has a pretty good board of like, here is games that like other people are bidding on in Fantasy Critic, that like percentage of people that picked it early in the draft, what's the level of hype for it. So you can have a look down here and go like, for early picks, you can go like, oh yeah, here's a reminder of some of the big budget games that we expect are probably releasing this year. You can look at what other people's popular picks are of like, oh yeah, The Duskbloods is like it's a Switch exclusive From Software game. That's kind of interesting. Hollow Knight Silksong DLC. You got a lot of stuff on here that's gonna give you a good sense of like what's coming out. So worst case scenario, you can just pick a thing on here that you're like, I think that probably will come out and will be good, and you know, it's other people are bidding on it. You can use some basic info from the master list. You can filter for certain different kinds of things. You can sort by different categories. The master games list is a really good place to get started. And ultimately, once you've picked some games, it's not high stress. It's basically just, at the start of the year, you pick 5 games and you go, oh, is my game gonna be good? And then you got 5 slots with 100 fantasy bucks, where like, let's say you watch a Nintendo Direct in March and they show a trailer for Kirby Teaches Typing, and you're like, that's gonna be a 10 out of 10 video game. You can bid 25 fantasy bucks, and if you're correct, you fill in one of your remaining slots with Kirby Teaches Typing, which is a incentive to keep an eye on, like, come along and hang out when I'm doing like reacting to Nintendo Direct streams. You'll see a bunch of trailers and go, ooh, maybe that's worth a bid. My brain would try to analyze the fun out of the process, says Terra. Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, it was not as bad of that as I thought it would be, but I get it. Izzy says, I'm interested to see who picks the game I'm working on. I'm fairly convinced someone will. I'm excited to one day finally find out what game that is. Genevieve Graves says, I ended last year with 95 fantasy bucks left. I was very cheap. How many fantasy bucks did I have left at the end? I had 2/3 of my fantasy bucks left. I really should have been a bit more aggressive on... there's a couple of games I really wanted to pick up, and I should have just blown some budget on them. Echo says, time to rewatch the Game Awards and every developer direct from last year to figure out what looks promising. Yeah, that's the spirit. It's an excuse to watch game trailers and be like, is that a good one? Yeah, how does, just join my first league, how does the budget system work, if you don't mind explaining? Yeah, so, at the start of the year, you're gonna bid on 5, at least in the league I'm putting together, you draft 5 of the games. You don't have to worry about the bidding process. It's your turn, you pick a game that no one else has picked yet. You're gonna have 5 empty slots throughout the year. It's Saturday night, and I think like 11 PM UK. I could be off, but it's somewhere around then every week that you go on the website and you're like, oh, I want to bid on a game, and there'll be a bar down the side where you can select a button to like, oh, I want to bid on something. You find the game on the system and you say, hey, I'm willing to pay this many fantasy bucks to get this game on my roster. If no one else in the league bids higher than you, you get that game. Now, we've set it for secret bidding, which is you don't know until like a couple of hours after the window closes. So like by about 1 AM in the UK, the winners will be announced, and you don't know who else bid until whoever won gets announced. Or you can set the league to have public bidding, where you can see someone just bid on this game, and then maybe you try and outbid them, maybe they try and outbid them. it's a very different kind of experience. Does that help make that make sense? It's homework but fun. That's kind of how I found it. It was fun homework to do. Yeah. I will also share, for any of you who aren't already in the Discord, I'm going to share the link to my Discord because we have a little channel for Fantasy Critic, and if you're going to take part in this, I would suggest joining the Discord and joining the Fantasy Critic channel, just so you can get little updates about how your games are doing in the Fantasy Critic. So give me 1 second to get a share link for you. Every now and then, I share a link to the Laura K. Buzz Discord. I don't share it super frequently because we've got a nice, quiet, cozy little community there, but, so let me refresh. I don't know where I have to look to see. Your conference currently league contains 6 active players, 5 of which have not been assigned to a league. Ooh. We got some players. Where do I see these active players? Manager actions. Assign players to leagues. Oh, we got some first people. We got Big Bunny Business, which I'm assuming is probably Echo. Genevieve back. Oh, Izzy the Penguin. Izzy and Dandelion? Are you being separate teams this year? Ooh. Bella Bean, Spirit Muse. Heck, we got some people. What I'm probably going to do is, let me say, I need to set like a day for this. What's the date today? Give me a second. Let's say on Friday the 16th, the Friday of next week, that's when I'm going to open the drafting. So if you want to be around live, we'll probably do it on stream. For anyone who wants to be around for the stream for it. That is when we will start opening up the drafting, and people will take turns picking their games. We can maybe even make a little evening out of it on stream, watching people's draft picks come in, me debating live on stream which ones I should go for. You're competing separately this year. Izzy and Dandelion, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to randomize who ends up in which little pockets, if we have enough for 2 pods this year. Do you want you and Danny to be in the same pod so that you are directly competing in the same little corner? Or do you want to be competing in separate corners and then competing against each other? Do you have a preference? Or are you up for being randomly assigned wherever you are randomly assigned? They said, hey, in the general and Discord, hell yeah. Draft might take a few days depending on where everyone's at time zone-wise. Yeah, we probably won't get the whole draft done on that night. If it's anything like the last one we did, time zones mean it will be a few days of process. But I might just do a stream that night anyway, watching the first few come in. Random? Cool. I will randomize and I'll see where you end up. I don't think that Fantasy Critic has a built-in way to do randomizing, but what I will do is I will put everyone's names into a big bucket. And if we have more than 10 people, I'm going to put everyone's names in a big bucket and just start pulling out names and seeing where it puts us on the draft. I'm also going to be randomizing the order that people get their picks. So the order that the draft happens, it happens down and then backwards up. The order is going to be random, so cross your fingers, people, for a good placement to get some of the good picks. Oh, this has been lovely. This has been really nice to have an excuse to revisit a year or so of Fantasy Critic and see how everyone's scores did and how everyone's assessments went. And I forgot to bring my Switch up, because otherwise I would pivot this into a shiny hunting stream. Maybe we do that? I don't know. We'll see. I don't often have time to do Discord, so I'll try to keep an eye on it, but make no promises. 2026 is stacked in terms of Linux ports I'm contributing to. I don't blame you. Keeping an eye on those things. Chaos. I keep an eye on the Fantasy Critic one occasionally, but it's a place for if you wanna have a sense for how people are feeling throughout the league. It's there, but also zero pressure. If you just want to quietly be like, haha, my number went up. Hee hee hee. More power to you. I need to look at what video games are coming out in this upcoming year. You know what? I'm going to use a bit of the stream today. 2026 video games. I am simply just going to pull up a list of video games expected to release in 2026. And I'm just going to talk about my thoughts about upcoming games, because that feels in fitting with the theme of today's stream. Yeah, it was a very chill channel. It wasn't active chat all the time every day. Just occasionally a review score would drop and we'd chat for like 2 minutes. So what have we got coming out? What do we know is coming out next year? I want to get looking early for the promising weird little indie picks, and I shouldn't be doing this on stream because I'm going to give other people ideas, but ooh, Cairn is coming out. That's the rock climbing game that was in the AA showcase. I think that's going to be promising. Cairn, I think, is real promising. Oh, Dokapon Collection. Oh. Code Vein 2. Code Vein 2 is going to be an interesting one. Neo 3. Mugenics. Ion Life 2 is an interesting one. I'm looking for new game franchises. Like, Cairn is definitely a promising new game franchise. Pokopia. Pokemon Pokopia. I'm curious where that's going to be, whether people are going to jump on that or not. Does Mugenics have anything to do with Mew the Pokemon? No, it's from the Binding of Isaac creator. It's Eugenics but cats from Mr. Binding of Isaac. Didn't the devs of Cairn also do some other indie darling? Maybe. They were the Game Bakers. Cairn's coming out real early in the year, isn't it? When is it? The Game Bakers. What did the Game Bakers do? Oh, Fury. That was well received. Haven. Oh, they were the Haven folks. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Cairn is definitely worth having on radar. I feel like Pokopia lives or dies on it being a game key card, which seems to say it won't do well. I don't think that's going to matter to that game's core audience, really. Is it going to capture the Animal Crossing audience or not? I genuinely have no idea. Whoa, what else is on here? Monster Hunter Stories 3, I think, is like a real promising title. Obviously not a new game franchise. Mouse PI for Hire, the Steamboat Willie style aesthetic first-person shooter, could be worth having on radar for that, the new game franchise. Pragmata. That's a new game franchise. It's Capcom published. It's got a demo, and people seem to really like the demo. People think it's a secret Mega Man game. Ooh, Pragmata might be a good new game franchise. That's probably the biggest budget new game franchise. The demo's good. Saros is technically a new game franchise. Yeah, Saros, Pragmata, they're bigger than what I typically think of for the new game franchise slot, but like, yeah, definitely a category. 007 First Light, I think it's very promising. GTA 6. I think GTA 6 is going to be the biggest question mark on the draft. Because if it releases in 2026, it is undoubtedly going to be a 90+ scorer. It's probably going to be the biggest scorer of the year. But it's currently estimated for November 19th. And they're currently being striked against by their workers after firing workers who tried to unionize. Does that slow down that game's development? Can they afford for its development to stretch on beyond 2026? GTA 6 is such a risk for it pushing back again. It is much like Silksong, Deltarune. This is one of those places where you either win big or you lose big. And if I'm early in the draft, I think I'm going to be very hard pressed not to pick GTA 6. And I know that it fucks me over if it gets to because here's the thing: if I pick it, someone will counterpick me. Someone will lock me into it. There is no world in which there isn't someone who goes, nah, that's getting delayed, and counterpicks it. Whether you fall on team pick it or counter pick it is going to be really interesting, and I think seeing where we all get drafted order-wise in the draft, whoever the first people offered, do you want to draft it or not, are going to really make or break this year's draft. I think. Ace Combat 8. I agree. Is probably going to be a good safe bet. But yeah, what else have we got that doesn't have dates yet? Yeah, Ace Combat 8. The Adventures of Elliot. This is the, yeah, this is the one that had a demo. This is from the Octopath Traveler team. Other than some slightly over-chatty NPCs, it had a pretty promising demo. This might be... Yeah, 2026 for Ace Combat 8. Yeah, that's I believe, due... Or it's an unscheduled release. It's, unknown. People are guessing it's probably 2026. What else have we got on the doesn't have dates thing? PUBG 4D. I'm telling you now, none of you better bid on Racoin before me. Like, that's the one thing I ask. A new game franchise, that's my one little indie darling that I ask you not to draft before I get a chance to. I want Racoin this year. I am a big Racoin fan. I fucking loved that demo. I wanna put big money on Racoin this year. Mina the Hollower still says 2030 on the eShop. Control Resonance is an easy 80. Ooh, yeah. Bubsy would be a fun pick. Bubsy is one of those that I might pick in the same vein as when I picked Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. I don't think it's going to get me good points, but I kind of want to root for it. What else have we got? Deltarune Chapter 5 is a... Q3 or Q4? I didn't know we knew this. That Chapter 5's coming next year. Ooh, will Deltarune Chapter 5 be biddable? And if so, will it get review scores of its own? Ooh, is Deltarune Chapter 5 worth bidding on? If it's permitted. Is Layton still slated for 2026, or did Level 5 say 2027? I don't think they've said 2027. I don't know if they've said a date at all. They've definitely not said 2027. Bella Bean says, I'm just going to try and draft my faves and see where we end up. That's what I try and do a healthy mix of actual predictions and stuff that I just want to believe in. The Dusk Bloods, obviously, is going to be a big point of gamble. Another multiplayer FromSoft thing. It's a Switch 2 exclusive. We don't exactly know what it is right now. Untitled FIFA. Forza Horizon 6 feels like it's probably going to be a big success. What are new game franchises? Oh, Lords of the Fallen 2 is going to be interesting. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Oh, that's already out. It's just getting ported. That's not new release. Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, I think, might be a really big winner this year. What do we got? Mina the Hollower, still unknown. I feel confident Mina the Hollower has to come out this year. The way that Yacht Club Games have talked about, like, we can't delay it much longer and it has to be a success, otherwise our company's fucked. I don't see them having another year of development time in them financially on that game. I think they've got to get it out. God, Fable, yeah. Is Fable still in development? Oh. No one trusts Molyneux anymore. Oh, the Star Wars Racers this year. Oh, yeah, Star Wars Pod Racery game. Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, the fighting game community is absolutely fucking tripping over themselves for Tokon. It will get... Here's the thing you got to keep in mind for Tokon Fighting Souls. It will get given to the most hardcore of hardcore fighting game people on the review team, who will score it highly because it's a beautiful new what's the development team, Blaze Blue folks. It's a brand new fighting game from that lot that is already doing well in terms of like having a competitive scene popping up around it. It's gonna review well. Arc System Works, that's the ones. Thank you. Pokemon Champions. Ooh, untitled Pokemon game. Gen 10 Pokemon is happening. Gen 10 Pokemon is happening in 2026. For any of you who aren't aware, there's a bunch of screenshots and videos of Gen 10 Pokemon development builds already floating around the internet, including what the new gimmick is this year, some of the aesthetic of the builds, Whether Gen 10 Pokemon does well or not, I think is going to really depend on, is it Switch 2 exclusive or is it cross-gen again? I think at some point it's going to need to make the leap to being a next-gen title and graphically pushing itself a little further forward because it doesn't have to fit the limitations of the last hardware. Pokemon's a really risky pick. But you know what might be a less risky pick? Pokemon Champions. The Battles exclusive spin-off where you can play on your phone or on Switch or Switch 2 just Pokemon battles, traditional turn-based battles, but with Pokemon from all the generations and all of the gimmicks mashed up together. That's going to be an interesting one. That might be a safer one. I think it probably hurts me to pick, but I do kind of want to draft Pokemon this year. I missed out on drafting ZA. I wanted to draft it even... Pokemon is one of those where I'm like, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot on actually doing well in the league if I bid on it. It's not a sensible bid. But I do kind of want... I want to be emotionally invested in the review score success of Gen 10 Pokemon. Resonance of Plague Tale Legacy. Yeah, we've got a new Plague Tale game coming out this year. I don't think that's on enough people's radar that that's a thing that exists, and that series has pretty consistently reviewed. Play the Spire 2. Star Wars Galactic Racer, that's the one that we were talking about. Did the Pokemon Gen 10 leaks get copyrighted off the internet? I can only find people referencing it, but none of the actual content of the leak. I'm pretty sure a lot of it's still visible on Centro? Yeah, if you go to Centro Leaks on, unfortunately, Twitter, they're not on Blue Sky. Fucking Twitter is terrible, I know. Let me see if that stuff's been pulled down or is it still up. Yeah, you can see some beta footage of the gameplay engine. I'm not going to show it on stream because I don't want to get in trouble on stream. But let me just double check. If you scroll down their page, yeah, if you scroll down their page, you can see like some test environments. You can see the new Rotom scooter you're going to be getting around on. Some of the new UI changes. Some of the mechanics and things. You can see the map of the new region, what the new gimmick of the gen looks like. You get a sense of who the new professor is, what the new character model designs look like, what the region is aesthetically based on, what they're targeting in terms of final visual look. A shit ton of stuff came out of the Tetra leak. Echo says, Stupid never dies. The grungy cel-shaded one that's going to be a solid 8 out of 10. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. What's that on Pokemon Champions? Pokemon Champions, I think, it might be a safe pick. It's turn-based Pokemon battles that you can do on your phone or on console that allow you to battle gimmick against gimmick, and I think that's going to be pretty well received by its people. Oh, Tomodachi Life. There have been some supposed leaks around Tomodachi Life, and if they are to be believed, and I believe them, gay is back. You can do gay marriage now. Do gay marriage. Tomodachi Life let you do gay marriage. Have the old text-to-speech voices and have gay marriage. You can do gay in this Tomodachi Life, allegedly. And I believe the people I have heard that from, I believe they know what they're talking about. So, I am very excited for the same really janky text-to-speech voices, but gay this time. Fuck yeah. Luigi's Mansion 4, I don't know if it comes in 2026, but I think Luigi's Mansion 4 happening is basically a guarantee at this point. Luigi's Mansion 3, one of the best-selling and best-reviewed games on Switch. They would be foolish not to make another Luigi's Mansion. Sorry for my slightly croaky voice today. Is Witchbrook still not out? Is Witchbrook still not out? Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. Oh, we've got so many video game movies next year. Discontinued games. Yeah, okay. Let's do a little refresh. How we doing? Ooh, we have 8. We got eight players already, which means we've already got enough to fill in one league. I think 8 is what we did in the league. We could go up to 10 in the league pretty comfortably, but I think 8. We could have two leagues of 8. That's probably pretty good. Who we got so far? Spirit Muse, Bella Bean, Chuzu, Dandelion, Big Bunny Business, Genevieve, Stick Sky Kai, and Izzy the Penguin. Yeah, I gotta work out how we're gonna organize these, but Incompetent Hero says, I think Nintendo's of the opinion the Mario anniversary is a thing until like March, so I wouldn't write off some form of new Mario related thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we got something around the release of the Mario Galaxy movie 2. I'm genuinely surprised we're not getting a Mario Galaxy 3 to tie in with the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I really thought that's the direction. Like, if you'd asked me You'd asked me a year ago, I'd have said that's the direction we were going, but... Rule Spider says, as a fan of the Ys franchise, I'm disappointed. If I play with you all, I'll be unable to bet on a single one of the 3 Ys titles. 2 HD remakes and the definitive edition. Well, tell them to make a brand new Ys game. It's not my fault. I cannot have that held against me, or predicted against me. Why am I being predicted 129.21 points for this year already? Really? Is this using my past scores to predict me a score for this year? Is it predicting? Yeah, you'll probably do as how you did last year, but without fucking up on counterpick. 129 would be a great score if I could make that this year. I'm glad that Fantasy Critic has faith in me. Yeah, there is a new Yoshi game. I don't think that new Yoshi game is gonna break an 8 out of 10. I think it's gonna score very similarly to Super Princess Peach Showtime, whatever it was. I think it's gonna score in that, yeah, it's fine for kids kind of score range. Echo says, I'm going through my Steam wishlist for games I think are gonna do good, and now I'm torn between wanting to talk about them and not wanting to remind everyone about them so they don't get poached from me. See, this is why I ended up, like, doing the draft as early as I did last year, is I set the league up, and then I was like, yeah, but I want to talk about my picks already. Knowing Nintendo, the view announcing the game now would detract from the movie coverage. Yeah, I see it. Do we have a notable visual novel / dating sim title announced for the year? At least one with a trailer that got noticed out of the visual novel dating sim circles. I don't know. I don't have anything on my radar of that nature. Who are you in a league with, or just random? I've created the league. The league is open to anyone who is watching the stream and wants to take part, or anyone who's in the Discord who wants to take part. It'll be me, plus whoever from the community wants to be part of this year's Guess How Reviews Will Score. Oh, this is such funky jazz. Thank you, Yakuza soundtrack, for all of this good funky jazz. The link, if you want to join the league this year, give me a sec, I'll grab the link, and then I will assign people to the various conferences soon. I think we're gonna call the stream soon. I'm not gonna go for too much longer today, if for no other reason than you can hear from my voice after my couple of weeks off. My voice needs a little warming back up to the world of talking on the internet. But I'm going to start doing another big, long playthrough of a game stream, probably starting on Wednesday. You know how we finished Yakuza 0 back in December? I think it might be time for the next Yakuza. We might move on to Yakuza Kiwami. So we might move on to Yakuza Kiwami. Maybe starting Wednesday, we start playing another Yakuza. Start another Yakuza from the beginning. If people are enjoying. I've been enjoying Cast and Chill. That's going to be my evening, I think. It's been a good chill night. Yeah, I'm going to continue hanging around for a little bit before we finish up today. But yeah, I think we're going to jump into the Yakuza stream, because I kind of want to get around to... Kiwami 3 is happening in like 2 months, and there's no way that I'm going to stream Kiwami and Kiwami 2 by then, but like, I want to get us moving through that Yakuza series. So if you want to be around on Wednesday at probably 9 PM UK, 4 PM Eastern, 1 PM Pacific, I will be jumping into a new Yakuza. It'll be a good time to load yourself in on like 3 hours of cutscenes about what's the plot of this one? What poor fate has befallen Kiryu this time that he will have to spend 50 hours digging himself out of? Will he be the Dragon of Dojima yet? Who can say? This year seems slow game-wise, but we said that last year. Yeah, Yeah. Echo says, I've never gelled with the gameplay of Yakuza, but I love watching people play them because they're so fun. I never gelled with the gameplay of the early ones. It wasn't until they became RPGs that I really gelled with playing them. And then I enjoyed them so much, I was like, fuck it, I'll put up with brawler gameplay that's not necessarily my thing, if it means I get to play more of them. Incompetent Hero says, I went back recently to Kiwami 2. That game does something I have great appreciation for. You can walk Kamurocho entirely in first person, and I love looking at all the little signs and ads in games. Super immersive. The Yakuza series generally is really good for that, for being able to just chill in first person and soak in, like, suburbs of Japan. Hurry Yakuza was fun. God, we played through 2 Yakuza games this year. That's wonderful. I'm gonna sit here and predict games that I think... Actually, you know what? I'm gonna have one more look at the games tab here. I want to see if there's any... Are there any frontrunners coming up of, like, game that hasn't officially been announced, but people are like, yeah, that's gonna happen this year. But they... What's popular, but not actually announced? So far, first page, RE9, GTA 6, Saros. God, if Marvel's Wolverine comes out this year, that's going to be great. New Control, Pragmata, Neo, new Fire Emblem, Duskbloods. Honestly, even first page of this is already looking like a pretty jammed year. What else we got? Oh, the Fatal Frame 2 remake. People still putting their money down on unannounced mainline 3D platform, a Mario platformer. Star Wars pod racing game. Did not expect that to be that high up. Yeah, Gen 10. People are putting their predictions on. Danganronpa 2x2. Yeah, the Danganronpa 2 semi-sequel. Ooh, Rhythm Heaven. We got new Rhythm Heaven this year. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Tomodachi Life. Yeah, there's a lot of unannounced Witcher 3 DLC. Witcher 3 DLC specifically is a curious one. Unannounced Persona 6. Really? Do we think Persona 6 comes out this year? Or do we think it gets announced this year, comes out 2027? Yeah, I'm very curious about Fatal Frame. Yeah, I don't think there's a world where... because we've got the remake of Persona 3. We've got Persona 4 remake. With the Persona 4 remake coming out this year, I don't think they make that compete with Persona 6. I think that they maybe tease Persona 6. I don't think it comes out. I'm glad to see Bubsy 4D is getting some... by the third page. There's rumours of a tie-in Witcher 3/4 DLC made by the porting group. Yeah, I'm surprised that Persona 4 Remake isn't higher up on the buzz here. Unannounced next mainline Luigi's Mansion game. Yeah, people are going in for that as a possibility. Kingdom Hearts 4 is really low. People do not think that's coming this year, and I kind of agree. I still think that's 2027. Was there not a remake of 4 announced? I'm pretty sure there was a remake of 4 announced, or was it... remake announced. Yeah, Persona 4 Revival was announced back in June. No release window yet. Yeah, okay. Yeah, people are debating whether it's likely for this year. I think it's more likely than Persona 6 is. God. People still going in for Bloodborne remaster. Hermit and Pig. That's the one with the old lady and the creature that was in a recent showcase that people were kind of into. Unannounced Spyro game? I'm just having fun at this point looking further down the list of things that people... Billy Bust Up. I want Billy Bust Up to be a 2026 game. I don't know if I believe it's 2026. I so badly want to bid on Billy Bust Up this year, but I don't know if I believe in its release. Billy Bust Up has been my most anticipated indie game for like 3 years straight. Okami sequel, that's never 2026. That's 2027, 2028. I want to believe that this is Billy Bust Up's year, but... What was the Muppet boxing game? That was... Felt That Boxing. Does it have a date? To be announced. Okay, that has no release date currently. Beyond Good and Evil. If anyone who thinks Beyond Good and Evil's coming this year is Is it legal for Laura to have fun on stream? I hope it's legal for me to have fun on stream. I like having fun on stream. I hope that hasn't been outlawed yet, because if it has been outlawed, I'm in trouble. Silent Hill remake. I'm not going to go too many more pages deep on this. I'm just... Ooh, Scratchin' Melody. Is that still in early access? Is that still in demos only territory? It's a good game, but its difficulty level, I think, is going to hurt it on review scores. Oh yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2 will never come out, and if it does come out, it won't be the Beyond Good and Evil 2 any of us wanted it to be. Call of Duty 2026. Kid Icarus Uprising remake. I'm glad people still have hope and dreams for that. Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. That's been announced for so long. Or rumoured for so long. Shovel Knight 2? People are predicting Shovel Knight 2? Honestly, considering how much Yacht Club's fucking finances are resting on Mina the Hollower, I wouldn't blame them for going back to more Shovel Knight. Oh, what's the game that's a musical about, like, restoring an old house that's haunted, but it's a musical that got shown off last year? The table goes lower, but middle mouse scroll doesn't go right. Oh, these pages are way longer. Oh, I've been skipping over entries. Okay, I didn't know the middle mouse scroll didn't show all the things. Okay, well, there's no Ghost at the Grand. That's it. Okay. Izzy, that's more of a clue than you've given us previously. I'm very intrigued to know. Sorry, let's get back to looking at page 1 again, then. Oh, Persona 4 Revival is indeed on page 1. I should have seen. Nugenics, Fable, Crimson Desert, Mouse PI for Hire. Oh god, I've been skipping over so many things. Pokopia. Vampire Crawlers. Yeah, this is the Vampire Survivors, but it's a first-person dungeon crawler card game. Unannounced mainline Half-Life game. People are so convinced that Half-Life 3, or whatever it's going to be called, New Half-Life, is the launch title for the Steam box. For the Steam machine. This is... Unannounced Half-Life game is probably the biggest gamble you can make this year. Replaced. Halo campaign evolved. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. Dave the Diver in the Jungle, Delta in Chapter 5, Witchbrook, Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb DLC maybe is a smart pick. World of Warcraft expansion. That's probably going to review well. How goes looking at game reviews? We had a very good time chilling, looking at last year's Fantasy Critic bids. I've opened up the league for the new year, and people are jumping in there. Yeah, the Steam Machine, not officially, but yeah, behind the scenes it sounds like the Steam Machine's getting pushed back because of the RAM shortages. Okay, let's see, what else is on this first page that we missed because we didn't scroll enough? Warhammer. Oh, Warhammer 40k. Ultra Kill, Black Flag remake. Coffee Talk Tokyo. Ghost of Yotei DLC will probably review well. Pony Island 2. Do we reckon that comes 2026? I think there's going to be some people who have that on their radar. Judas is the new thing from Mr. Bioshock. Ken Levine? That's Ken Levine's new thing, isn't it? Yeah. Expansion very much depends on the reviewers, yeah. Don't Stop Girly Pop. I have no idea what that is, but I kind of want to know what Don't Stop Girly Pop is now. People still thinking Ocarina of Time remake. I'd love to see it. Decapolice. Is Decapolice still not out? When did this first get revealed? Decapolice has been... Yeah, it got announced in a 2023 Nintendo Direct, Decapolice. Hence my assumption it was already out at this point. Don't Stop Girly Pop looks so hype. Give me a second to find, oh, is this the pink and purple aesthetic first-person shooter thing?
You?
Okay, give me a second, chat. We're pulling up a trailer for Don't Stop Girly Pop.
Are no longer an individual of flesh and blood. You are Ember, and you will be their downfall.
Oh.
Remember, Ember, just don't stop moving, and we might make it out again.
The faster you go, the more damage you deal, and the more you heal.
This looks like Transcat bait? Yeah, and I'm falling for it.
Wrecking all my stuff? Do you have any idea how much shareholder value you just destroyed?
Well,
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be any good at playing it. I'm very glad this exists. I'm pretty certain that is a game I will download the soundtrack for. I'm so glad that I showed some vague interest in Don't Stop Girly Pop. Right, Don't Stop Girly Pop. Ooh, we've got more players in the league. Who we got? ETH Demons, Spirit Muse, Bellabean, Royal Spider, Dandelion. Oh heck! Look at that. We've got a whole little league forming. It's got a demo on Steam right now. Well, I know what I'm playing before Podquisition this week. I'm trying out that Don't Stop Girly Pop demo. Cool. I reckon I'm probably going to wrap the stream here for today, but thank you so much. Sorry, a Tamagotchi could be your magical ammo management system. Fuck yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call the stream here for today, but thank you so much everyone for watching. If you are taking part in the Fantasy Critic League this year, keep an eye on the Discord, where when the draft starts, I'll at people to nudge them when it's their turn to pick a game to keep the draft going. Probably next week it's going to be that we'll lock it in and we'll start drafting games, and then hell yeah, we'll find out who had fun predicting video games. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll be back on Wednesday streaming some Yakuza Kiwami, I think is the plan.